The social engagement system is one of the core hypotheses of polyvagal theory, and the social engagement system is really made possible partly because of your vagus nerve. Your vagus nerve is one of 5 nerves in your body that make you a social creature, that give you the capacity to form bonds and relationships, and that just wire you to be a social person, to crave and to thrive in the presence of healthy and safe connection. Your vagus nerve is one of 5 nerves that makes that possible. So I want to say that again. The vagus nerve is one of 5 nerves that make your social engagement system possible. It's not solely about your vagus. But the social engagement system is imperative for our survival, meaning that we are creatures that come into this world without any capacity to survive on our own. So we are wired to connect and form bonds, and doing so keeps us alive, right? You can't feed yourself when you're an infant. You can't keep yourself warm or clothe yourself or seek shelter or run away from danger. You need caregivers to do that for you. So our DNA has programmed us to form bonds. And because we are programmed to form bonds and relationships can be the best thing for us when they're healthy and safe and have good boundaries. But they can also be the worst thing for us when they're really dangerous, right? So dangerous, unhealthy, chaotic, and dramatic relationships can really wreak havoc on our neurobiology because of our predisposition to connect and bond. So the social engagement system is described in polyvagal theory. It's made possible by the vagus nerve, and specifically the vagal brake, which allows us to feel safe with each other. And it relies on our capacity to communicate and perceive safety with others. So when you are connecting with somebody new, maybe you're forming a new best friend, partly that's made possible by how that person is communicating to you, if they're friend or foe, and how you perceive their signals of communication of friend or foe. So social bonds really rely on safety. For us to form really healthy and supportive relationships that help us to be resilient, they need to be safe. And therapeutic presence really is a way to embody the power of the social engagement system within therapy. Therapeutic presence is about the ability to be fully present with your whole body, with your client, right here, right now. And so we all know that therapeutic rapport is the number one most important variable for successful client outcomes. It's more important than, if you have your ER script memorized, or how good you are with DBT, or how clever you are with ACT interventions, what have you. It's all about the relationship. And the reason it's all about the relationship is because we are relational creatures. And when we feel safe, when we feel seen, when we feel heard by somebody, that is a priceless experience. So we can think about the social engagement system not just as a very important, vital part of successful therapy, but how do we really harness the power of the social engagement system within EMDR therapy, a model that doesn't really explicitly describe how we maintain therapeutic rapport with our clients when we're desensitizing. So we'll talk a little bit about that today. So let's talk about the vagus nerve. So polyvagal theory describes the processes of the autonomic nervous system and how the vagus nerve mediates these processes. So the vagus nerve, I sometimes think of as the conductor of your autonomic nervous system. So if you ever go to a symphony, there's a conductor. Go to a choir concert, there's a conductor at the front of the stage, right? Who's kind of keeping harmony and keeping the tempo with the whole orchestra. And the conductor at one point maybe cues the horns, and at another point cues the violins, and at another point cues the drums. And when the conductor and the symphony are synced up and in time and are flowing according to kind of the music plan, you have this beautiful piece that's put together that feels so wonderful and appealing to the nervous system. But when that symphony, that orchestra is out of tempo, or the horns get, cued at the same time that the flutes did and they weren't supposed to, it can become a cacophony of sound. And so the vagus nerve is the conductor at the front of the autonomic nervous system that's cueing these circuits of the autonomic nervous system in correspondence with life demands and safety and threat. And when the vagus nerve is functioning effectively, when it's toned, when it's well exercised, when you have a well-regulated vagus nerve, life feels like it can flow, like you have some efficacy and control over what happens inside of you. But when that vagus nerve is not well exercised, when it's not functioning correctly, if there is a medical condition that is negatively impacting the vagus nerve, that absolutely happens, like a cacophony of sound in your nervous system, right? It feels so mixed up and too loud, too quiet, too fast, or too slow. And you can't find the right vibe, the right tempo to get through life. And so life gets really hard. And so the vagus nerve is a big focus now. We know it's a growing focus in the self-help world, how to hack your vagus nerve, how to tone your vagus nerve. You can't really hack your biology. You can influence your biology. But I think that this is really powerful, that this is growing in a self-help world, because it's teaching people how to regulate their own nervous systems and focusing on how do we get some self-efficacy over our neurobiology so it doesn't feel like our dragon is out of control. So the vagus nerve is the mediator of autonomic circuits. Okay. Now your vagus nerve, second longest nerve in your body, second to the sciatic. Your sciatic nerve is the longest nerve in your body. And your vagus nerve has a huge relationship with your heart rate. And by influencing your heart rate is kind of how it cues autonomic pathways. So the vagus nerve is one of two mechanisms in your biology that influence your heart. You have two mechanisms. One is the vagus nerve and another one lives in your heart. And it's these two mechanisms that tell your heart how fast to beat and how often to beat. So by influencing heart rate, when your heart rate speeds up, it activates your sympathetic pathway. You tend to have a mobilization response of energy. And when heart rate slows down, it changes the activation of your sympathetic pathway. And when our heart rate slows too much, it's hard to get through, right? It's hard to find the energy to get out of bed and to get through the day. And so your heart rate is kind of the champion of everything that you experience in your life and how your nervous system is functioning. Your vagus nerve is actually a bundle of nerves. It's not just one nerve, it's a bunch of nerves. And those nerves are made up of afferent and efferent nerves. What does that mean? Afferent nerves carry information from the brain to the body. So 80% of your vagus nerve is made up of afferent nerves. Okay. That means that most of that vagus nerve is taking information. I'm sorry, I think I said afferent brain to body. It's the opposite way. Afferent nerves take information from the body to the brain. My apologies. So the body to the brain, 80% of the vagus nerve is carrying information from your senses to your brain to be interpreted by your brain and to make predictions upon. So if you smell something that you didn't expect and it smells like something burnt, right? So if I all of a sudden smelled something burnt, my senses would alert my brain, would take that information that's coming in through my nose to my brain, and my brain would say, feels like something's burnt, it's on fire, and then I do something with that. So 8% of that vagus nerve is taking in information from the body to the brain, afferent nerves. Efferent nerves go the opposite direction, go from the brain to the body. I often think of efferent as exit brain to body is how I keep that straight. And 20% of the vagus nerve is made up of brain to body nerves. So your vagus nerve is really your mind-body superhighway. It is carrying information between the brain to the body and the body to the brain. And it creates this interdependent, interdynamic relationship between your brain and your body. You don't just think your memories, you feel your memories because of how the vagus nerve carries information.